Yeah, it was a crazy experience. Not only before, during, but also after. Because I got a lot of death threats. I got la-
What?
I got I got labeled as a guy with AIDS, and I'd be walking the streets in
Oh my
Cashew saying,
goodness.
"As a guy with AIDS, as a guy."
Oh,
With AIDS. But it was, yeah, it was. I mean, like my friend rightly said, it was a first time experience for all of us. I mean, it was the first time that we were actually, being caught on camera. You know what I mean? Um, and so, it created this kind of a feeling where, sometimes, we were acting, but at the same time we were learning how to act. Because
Yeah.
now we're not on a stage. We're in front of a camera. You can't just stare in the camera and talk. You have to, factoring all of those things. But in terms of the story itself, it was an interesting story because, at the time, the story that we were telling, there was a need for it in Saint Lucia. I mean, you're talking about Saint Lucia being hit, with the AIDS epidemic,
Yeah.
and then the Department of Substance Abuse, reaching out to us, to help tell the story, to young people. And most of the actors in the film, were young people, like myself. I mean, obviously, I was much younger then, but it was a way of young people seeing themselves, you know, not just by way of a story, but seeing also the consequences of what could happen when they participated in, in drugs and alcohol and bad company, and engaged in, all kinds of sexual activity and that kind of stuff. And so, it was, on one hand, for me, I mean, the story was nice, but it got, like I said, it got scary because I didn't think that people would have taken this thing so seriously, but they did. But
Yeah.
the truth is the story. We know this. We know that there were people out there who were impacted by the story,
Yeah.
and that has always been our motivation, to make sure that the stories that we tell, you know, tell the true
Mhm.
story of
Yeah.
what we try to portray, and that people get the message.
Yeah.
If not, if people don't get the message, then what we're doing is basically just for entertainment purposes. But we are more than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a first time experience, and man, there was a lot to learn. I remember this particular scene. We were filming in Prale, and I remember I got so caught up, in that particular scene. And that scene, at that time, I was required to cross the street, right? Cross the street. I think I was I
yeah,
was
I
high on
remember
drug
that scene.
I was high on drugs. I was high on drugs,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
out there now trying to find food and all that kind of stuff. This crazy guy, and I remember crossing the street,
Mhm.
and it didn't occur to me that I should have looked left to right. Of course, I was a crazy guy. So what do crazy people
Yeah.
do? And the funny thing about
Mhm.
the funny thing is, man, a vehicle was coming. There was an oncoming vehicle, and I was
Yeah.
just when I crossed the street, I looked back and I was like, wait, what just happened? you know? So
Just
that's
fine.
how. And then as well, I remember having
Yeah.
to lie down in a coffin, for the first time.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about
Mhm.
that coffin story is we had a vehicle to transport the coffin from Viewfort all the way to Prale. And I remember in particular that day, right? Not a single vehicle wanted to be behind that van. They just refused to be. They gave it, all the days, And it was interesting because now I found myself having to lie down in a coffin and get film and everything. So it's interesting because people were like, in St. Lucia we have this thing about coffin and all that kind of stuff. But it was an interesting scene, just to be able to, go in there. And people are asking me, people were asking, did you really die? What happened? Did you really get
Did
AIDS?
you die? Are you hurt? Did you die?